The dog went to his best friend's funeral, but what happened next? In the picturesque city of Portland, Oregon, where the lush green landscapes met the urban sprawl, lived a boy named Johnny Thompson and his inseparable companion, Ralph, a loyal German shepherd. Their friendship was the stuff of legends in the neighborhood, a bond so pure and strong that it seemed nothing could ever tear them apart. Johnny, a bright-eyed 12-year-old with a mop of unruly brown hair and a perpetual grin, had found Ralph as a puppy 5 years ago. Since that day, the two had been inseparable. They spent their days exploring the vast backyard of the Thompson family home, with its ancient oak tree that seemed to touch the sky and the hidden nooks that became their secret fortresses. Ralph was more than just a pet to Johnny. He was a confidant, a protector, and a best friend. The dog's deep brown eyes seemed to understand every word Johnny said, every emotion he felt. They had a language of their own, made up of subtle gestures, playful barks, and loving gazes. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when least expected. On a crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves carpeted the ground, Johnny fell ill. What started as a simple fever quickly escalated, baffling doctors and specialists alike. Ralph, sensing something was amiss, refused to leave Johnny's side. Even as the boy was rushed to the hospital, days turned into weeks, and Johnny's condition worsened. The Thompson family, devastated and helpless, could only watch as their vibrant young boy fought a battle against an unseen enemy. Ralph, not understanding why he couldn't be with Johnny, spent his days at the window, whining softly, his eyes fixed on the road leading to the hospital. Then, on a somber winter morning, the unthinkable happened. Johnny, the boy with the infectious laugh and boundless energy, slipped away quietly in his sleep. The news hit the Thompson family like a tidal wave, leaving them shattered and lost. As preparations for Johnny's funeral began, a debate arose about whether Ralph should attend. Some family members argued it would be too distressing for the dog, while others insisted that Ralph deserved a chance to say goodbye. In the end, love prevailed, and it was decided that Ralph would be part of the farewell to his best friend. The day of the funeral dawned grey and misty, as if the heavens themselves were mourning. Ralph, usually energetic and playful, seemed to sense the gravity of the occasion. He walked solemnly beside Mr. Thompson, his head bowed as if in respect. At the cemetery, as friends and family gathered around Johnny's final resting place, Ralph's behavior changed. He broke free from Mr. Thompson's gentle hold and trotted directly to the small casket. There he lay down, pressing his body against the polished wood, letting out a soft whimper that broke the hearts of all present. As the ceremony progressed, Ralph remained steadfast by Johnny's side, his eyes never leaving the casket. When it was time for the final goodbye, Ralph stood up, placed a paw on the casket, and let out a howl so mournful it echoed through the cemetery, sending shivers down everyone's spine. The Thompsons, through their tears, realized that Ralph's grief was as profound as their own. As they prepared to leave, Ralph resisted, refusing to move from the graveside. It took gentle coaxing and promises of return visits to finally get him to leave. That night, as the Thompson family tried to come to terms with their new reality, Ralph's behavior shifted dramatically. He paced restlessly through the house, stopping at Johnny's bedroom door, whining softly. When let in, he curled up on Johnny's bed, surrounded by the lingering scent of his departed friend. Little did the family know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would challenge their understanding of love, loyalty, and the bonds that transcend even death itself. In the days following Johnny's funeral, the Thompson household was shrouded in a heavy silence, broken only by the occasional sobs of grieving family members and the soft padding of Ralph's paws as he moved from room to room. The once lively home now felt like a museum of memories, each corner holding a snapshot of Johnny's short but vibrant life. Ralph's behavior, however, began to draw attention. Every morning, without fail, he would scratch at the back door, whining insistently until someone let him out. Once in the backyard, he would make a beeline for the old oak tree, Johnny and Ralph's favorite spot. There he would sit for hours, his eyes fixed on the empty space where Johnny used to sit, telling stories and dreaming of grand adventures. Sarah and Michael Thompson, Johnny's parents, watched this ritual with a mixture of heartache and concern. They couldn't bear to see Ralph suffering, yet they recognized in his actions their own desperate need to hold on to anything that reminded them of their son. It was Lucy, Johnny's 10-year-old sister, who first suggested creating a memorial for Johnny under the oak tree. "Maybe it'll help, Ralph," she said softly one evening, her small voice filled with a wisdom beyond her years. "And maybe it'll help us too." The idea took root, and soon the entire family was involved in the project. They gathered Johnny's favorite possessions, his beloved baseball cap, worn and faded from countless summer days, the toy rocket he'd dreamed of launching to the stars, photos of him and Ralph in happier times. With gentle hands and tear-filled eyes, they arranged these treasures at the base of the oak tree. Ralph watched the process intently, his tail wagging slightly for the first time since Johnny's passing. When they finished, he approached the memorial cautiously, sniffing each item. Upon reaching Johnny's cap, he let out a soft whine and gently nuzzled it. From that day forward, Ralph's routine changed. He would spend hours at the memorial, sometimes lying beside it, other times sitting guard as if protecting a sacred space. The Thompsons would often find him there, his eyes closed as if in deep contemplation or remembrance. As weeks passed, the raw edge of grief began to soften, but Ralph's devotion to the memorial remained unwavering. Then, one crisp spring morning, something extraordinary happened. Sarah, unable to sleep, had wandered to the kitchen for a glass of water when she heard a sound from the backyard. Peering out the window, she saw Ralph at the memorial, his tail wagging furiously, but that wasn't what made her gasp. There, in the soft glow of the moonlight, she could have sworn she saw a shimmering outline of a small figure beside Ralph. She blinked, and the figure was gone. Convinced she was seeing things, Sarah decided not to mention it to anyone, but the incident planted a seed of wonder in her mind. Days later, Michael found a small blue stone placed carefully atop Johnny's cap at the memorial. It was eerily similar to the ones Johnny used to collect on their family hikes. Ralph sat nearby, looking oddly pleased with himself. "Where did you find this, boy?" Michael asked, his voice trembling. Ralph simply wagged his tail and let out a soft bark. That night, as the family sat around the dinner table, they shared their experiences. Lucy mentioned hearing distant laughter in the backyard, only to find it empty save for Ralph. Sarah hesitantly recounted what she thought she'd seen in the moonlight. As they talked, a mix of emotions filled the room: confusion, hope, and a touch of fear. Was grief playing tricks on their minds, or was something truly extraordinary happening? Ralph, meanwhile, seemed more at peace than he had been since Johnny's passing. His eyes held a spark of life that had been missing, and there was an air of anticipation about him, as if he was privy to a secret the rest of the family had yet to discover. As the Thompsons retired for the night, each lost in their own thoughts, they couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something beyond their understanding. Little did they know, the coming days would challenge everything they believed about life, death, and the unbreakable bonds of love. As spring blossomed into summer, the mysterious occurrences around Johnny's memorial intensified. The Thompson family found themselves caught between rational explanations and a growing sense that something truly extraordinary was unfolding in their backyard. One balmy evening, as fireflies began their nightly dance, Lucy was helping her mother tend to the garden near the old oak tree. Ralph, as usual, lay near the memorial, his eyes half closed in contentment. Suddenly, his ears perked up, and he lifted his head, alert and expectant. Lucy, noticing Ralph's change in demeanor, paused her work. "What is it, boy?" she whispered. As if in response, a gentle breeze rustled through the leaves of the oak tree. Lucy gasped as she caught the faintest whiff of a familiar scent, the mix of grass and bubblegum that always seemed to cling to Johnny. She looked at her mother, wondering if she had noticed it too, but Sarah was focused on pruning a stubborn rosebush. "Mom," Lucy started, her voice quivering. "Did you smell that?" Sarah straightened up, wiping her brow. She took a deep breath and froze. The scent was unmistakable. Tears welled up in her eyes as she met Lucy's gaze, a mixture of confusion and hope etched on her face. Ralph, meanwhile, had gotten to his feet and was wagging his tail, his eyes fixed on a spot just beyond the memorial. To Lucy and Sarah, there was nothing there, but Ralph's behavior suggested otherwise. He let out a series of soft, joyful barks, the kind he used to make when playing with Johnny. The moment passed as quickly as it had come. The scent dissipated, carried away by the evening breeze, and Ralph settled back down, though his eyes remained fixed on that empty space. Sarah and Lucy sat in silence for a long moment, neither knowing quite what to say. Finally, Sarah pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. "I don't know what's happening, sweetheart," she whispered. "But I think Johnny might be trying to tell us something." As word of these strange occurrences spread through the family, each member began to pay closer attention to the goings-on around the memorial. Michael, ever the skeptic, tried to find logical explanations. Perhaps the scent was just a mixture of flowers that happened to smell like Johnny's favorite bubblegum. Maybe Ralph's behavior was simply his way of processing grief. But even Michael's rational mind was put to the test when he discovered small footprints in the soft earth around the memorial one morning. They were the perfect size to match Johnny's feet, and they hadn't been there the night before. What's more, there was no sign of anyone else having entered the backyard. Ralph, for his part, seemed to be thriving. His eyes had regained their sparkle, and he bounced around the backyard with renewed energy. He still spent a great deal of time at the memorial, but now it seemed less an act of mourning and more one of joyful companionship. The children in the neighborhood, who had been keeping their distance out of respect for the family's grief, slowly began to return. They were drawn by Ralph's newfound enthusiasm and the stories of strange happenings around the old oak tree. One afternoon, a group of Johnny's old friends gathered in the backyard. As they shared memories of their departed friend, Ralph suddenly perked up and ran to the memorial. The children watched in awe as he began to dig frantically at a spot near the base of the tree. "Ralph, stop!" Lucy called out, worried he might damage the memorial. But before anyone could intervene, Ralph's paw struck something solid. With gentle coaxing, the dog stepped back, allowing the children to investigate. There, half buried in the earth, was Johnny's old journal, the one he'd claimed to have lost months before his illness. As Lucy carefully brushed off the dirt, a folded piece of paper fell out. With trembling hands, she opened it to find a message in Johnny's messy scrawl. "To whoever finds this, dreams are real, love is forever. And sometimes goodbye isn't forever, keep looking up. Johnny." The discovery of the journal sent shockwaves through the Thompson family and their community. How had it gotten there? Why hadn't Ralph found it before? And what did Johnny's cryptic message mean? As night fell and the children reluctantly returned home, the Thompsons gathered around the kitchen table, the journal placed reverently in the center. They were a family divided, torn between the hope that Johnny was somehow reaching out to them and the fear of getting lost in a fantasy that could only lead to more heartache. Ralph, oblivious to their concerns, sat contentedly by the back door, his gaze fixed on the starry sky outside. In the quiet of the night, a soft, almost inaudible whisper seemed to float on the air. "Keep looking up." The Thompsons exchanged glances, each wondering if the others had heard it too. As they retired for the night, each lost in their own thoughts, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something miraculous. Little did they know, the most extraordinary revelations were yet to come. As summer reached its peak, the mysterious events surrounding Johnny's memorial took an even more perplexing turn. It began on a sweltering August morning when Sarah, while watering the flowers around the old oak tree, noticed something peculiar. Nestled atop Johnny's worn baseball cap, which had been a centerpiece of the memorial, was a vibrant blue feather. Sarah blinked, certain her eyes were playing tricks on her. The feather hadn't been there the previous evening, and its color was unlike any bird she'd ever seen in their backyard. As she reached out to touch it, a sudden gust of wind swept through the yard, causing the feather to dance in the air before gently settling back onto the cap. Ralph, who had been dozing nearby, suddenly sprang to attention. His tail wagged furiously as he approached the memorial, sniffing the feather with great interest. He then looked up at Sarah, his eyes sparkling with what could only be described as excitement. "What do you know about this, Ralph?" Sarah asked softly, kneeling beside the dog. Ralph responded with a gentle woof and nuzzled her hand, as if trying to reassure her. Over the next few days, the blue feather became the talk of the Thompson household. Michael suggested it might have come from an exotic pet bird in the neighborhood, while Lucy was convinced it was a sign from Johnny. Ralph, for his part, seemed particularly protective of the feather, often lying close to the memorial as if standing guard. But the appearance of the feather was just the beginning. A week later, Lucy discovered small, intricate structures made of twigs and leaves near the memorial. They resembled tiny houses or forts, precisely the kind Johnny used to build during his imaginary adventures in the backyard. "Mom, Dad, come look at this," Lucy called out one afternoon. The entire family gathered around the memorial, marveling at the delicate constructions. "These weren't here yesterday," Michael said, his voice a mixture of awe and confusion, "and they're too complex to have been made by animals." As they stood there, trying to make sense of the new development, Ralph began to act strangely. He paced around the memorial, whining softly and pawing at the ground. Then, to everyone's surprise, he gently picked up Johnny's cap in his mouth and brought it to Lucy. "What is it, boy?" Lucy asked, taking the cap. As she turned it over in her hands, something fell out, another small blue stone, identical to the one they had found weeks ago. The Thompsons looked at each other in stunned silence. The coincidences were becoming too numerous to ignore. Yet the rational part of their minds struggled to accept what their hearts were beginning to believe. That night, as the family sat around the dinner table, they tried to piece together the puzzle that was unfolding in their backyard. The feather, the miniature structures, the recurring blue stones, it all pointed to a presence they could feel but not see. "What if," Lucy began hesitantly, "what if Johnny is trying to tell us something? What if he's not really gone?" The adults exchanged uncertain glances. It was a thought they had all harbored secretly, but hearing it spoken aloud made it both more real and more frightening. "Sweetheart," Sarah said gently, "we all miss Johnny terribly, but we have to be careful not to see things that aren't there just because we want them to be." But even as she said it, Sarah couldn't help but doubt her own words. The events of the past weeks had shaken her understanding of reality, and deep down, a part of her wanted to believe in the impossible. As the discussion continued late into the night, Ralph sat alertly by the back door, his gaze fixed on the starry sky outside. Every so often, his ears would perk up as if listening to a voice only he could hear. There, in the moonlit backyard, they saw a sight that left them breathless. Hundreds of fireflies had gathered around Johnny's memorial, their soft glow creating a mesmerizing dance of light. The blue feather atop the baseball cap seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly radiance. Ralph bounded out into the yard, his tail wagging furiously. He circled the illuminated memorial, barking joyfully as if reunited with a long-lost friend. The Thompsons watched in awe, unable to move or speak. As they stood transfixed, a gentle breeze rustled through the leaves of the old oak tree. To their astonishment, it carried the faint sound of a child's laughter, a sound they hadn't heard in months but would recognize anywhere. It was Johnny's laugh. Lucy was the first to break the silence. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. "It's him," she said softly. "It's our Johnny." Even Michael, who had been the most skeptical, couldn't deny the overwhelming feeling of his son's presence. He wrapped his arms around his family, drawing them close as they watched the ethereal scene before them. The fireflies began to disperse, their light fading gradually. As the last one flickered out, Ralph trotted back to the family, carrying something gently in his mouth. It was a small, intricately woven bracelet made of grass and wildflowers, exactly like the ones Johnny used to make for his mother. Sarah took the bracelet with trembling hands, pressing it to her heart. In that moment, any lingering doubts were washed away by a tidal wave of love and certainty. Johnny was still with them, in ways they were only beginning to understand. From that night on, the Thompson family's perspective on life, death, and the bonds of love underwent a profound shift. They began to approach the mysterious happenings not with fear or skepticism, but with open hearts and minds. They started keeping a journal of all the unusual occurrences, which soon filled with accounts of unexplained scents, sounds, and small objects appearing near the memorial. Ralph's behavior became a barometer for Johnny's presence, with the dog often reacting to things unseen by human eyes. Word of the extraordinary events at the Thompson house spread through the neighborhood and beyond. Some dismissed it as the imaginings of a grieving family, while others were drawn to the possibility of a love so strong it transcended the boundaries between life and death. As summer began to wane, the frequency and intensity of the mysterious events increased. It was as if Johnny was trying to communicate something urgent, something that couldn't wait. The blue feathers became more common, often appearing in unexpected places throughout the house. One particularly memorable incident occurred during a backyard barbecue with close friends and family. As everyone gathered around the picnic table, Ralph suddenly stood at attention, his gaze fixed on an empty chair, the one where Johnny always used to sit. A hush fell over the gathering as a gentle breeze swept through, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of Johnny's favorite cherry pie. Plates and napkins rustled, and to everyone's amazement, a single slice of pie appeared on the empty plate before Johnny's chair. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the group. Some guests stepped back in fear, while others leaned in, drawn by an inexplicable sense of comfort and joy. Lucy, emboldened by months of unexplained events, spoke directly to the empty chair. "Johnny, if you're here, give us a sign." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the cherry pie began to disappear, bite by bite, as if an invisible person was enjoying the dessert. The event marked a turning point for the Thompsons and their community. It was no longer possible to dismiss the occurrences as mere coincidence or wishful thinking. Something truly extraordinary was happening, something that challenged their understanding of the world and the nature of existence itself. As summer gave way to fall, the Thompsons found themselves at the center of a growing phenomenon. People from all walks of life began to visit their home, drawn by the stories of a love that refused to be limited by the boundaries of life and death. Through it all, Ralph remained a constant presence, a living bridge between two worlds. His unwavering devotion to both Johnny's memory and his continuing presence became a symbol of hope for all who witnessed it. Little did the Thompsons know that the most incredible revelation was yet to come, a truth that would shake the foundations of their reality and open their eyes to a world more wondrous and mysterious than they had ever imagined. As autumn painted the landscape in hues of gold and crimson, the Thompson family found themselves at a crossroads. The events surrounding Johnny's memorial had become impossible to ignore, yet they struggled to make sense of what was happening. It was Lucy who proposed the idea that would change everything. "What if we spend a night at the memorial?" she suggested one evening. "Maybe if we're all there together, Johnny will be able to, I don't know, show himself more clearly." The idea was met with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Sarah and Michael exchanged glances, silently weighing the potential emotional toll against their desperate need for answers. Ralph, as if sensing the importance of the decision, sat up attentively, his tail wagging in apparent approval. After much discussion, the family agreed to Lucy's plan. They would hold a midnight vigil at the memorial on the approaching full moon night, hoping to bridge the gap between their world and whatever realm Johnny now inhabited. As the chosen night arrived, an air of anticipation settled over the Thompson household. They prepared for the vigil with a mixture of reverence and hope, gathering blankets, candles, and Johnny's favorite snacks. Ralph, more animated than usual, darted between family members as they made their preparations, as if urging them to hurry. Just before midnight, the Thompsons made their way to the old oak tree. The full moon bathed the backyard in an ethereal glow, casting long shadows that seemed to dance in the gentle breeze. They arranged themselves around Johnny's memorial, with Ralph taking his usual spot next to the baseball cap. As the clock struck 12, Sarah lit a candle and placed it at the center of their circle. "Johnny," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "if you're here with us, we're ready to listen. We love you, and we miss you so much." For several long moments, nothing happened. The only sounds were the rustle of leaves and the distant hooting of an owl. Then, Almost imperceptibly at first, the air around them began to change. It felt charged, alive with an energy they couldn't explain but could definitely feel. Ralph's ears perked up, and he let out a soft whine, his eyes fixed on a point just beyond the memorial. Lucy gasped, pointing to where Ralph was looking. There, shimmering in the moonlight, was a faint, blue-tinged outline of a small figure. "Johnny," Michael called out, his voice trembling with emotion. The shimmer grew stronger, gradually taking on a more defined shape. And then, in a moment that would be forever etched in their memories, Johnny appeared before them. Not as a solid form, but as a translucent, glowing presence. He looked just as they remembered him, with his mischievous grin and tousled hair. But there was also something different about him, an aura of peace and wisdom that seemed beyond his years. "Hi, everyone," Johnny's voice echoed softly, as if coming from a great distance. "Phil, I've been trying so hard to reach you." Tears flowed freely as the family stared in awe at the spectral form of their beloved boy. Ralph bounded forward, attempting to nuzzle Johnny, but passing right through him. The dog didn't seem distressed by this, instead wagging his tail happily as if this was a regular occurrence. "Oh, Johnny," Sarah sobbed, reaching out instinctively before stopping herself. "We've missed you so much. Are you okay?" Johnny's form flickered slightly as he nodded. "I'm more than okay, Mom. I'm free now, and I can go anywhere, see anything. But I couldn't leave without making sure you knew I was all right." "But how is this possible?" Michael asked, his scientific mind struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. Johnny's spectral form seemed to brighten as he explained, "Love, Dad. Love makes all things possible. It's the most powerful force in the universe, stronger even than death. That's why I could come back, why I could reach out to you through Ralph and the things around the memorial." As the family listened in rapt attention, Johnny began to share with them the wonders he had experienced since passing. He spoke of realms beyond imagination, of the interconnectedness of all things, and of the enduring nature of the soul. "So I wanted to show you that death isn't the end," Johnny said, his voice filled with a wisdom far beyond his years. "It's just a change, a new beginning, and the love we share, that never dies. It's what keeps us connected, no matter where we are." The conversation continued through the night, with Johnny answering questions, sharing laughs, and offering comfort to his grieving family. As the first light of dawn began to streak across the sky, Johnny's form started to fade. "I have to go now," he said softly. "But remember, I'm always with you. In every laugh, every memory, every moment of love, that's where you'll find me." As Johnny's image dissolved into the morning light, the Thompsons were left with a profound sense of peace and understanding. The world as they knew it had changed forever, expanded beyond the boundaries of what they once thought possible. Ralph, who had remained calm throughout the encounter, now stood and stretched, looking at the family with what could only be described as a knowing gaze. It was clear that he had been aware of Johnny's presence all along, serving as a loyal bridge between two worlds. As they made their way back to the house, exhausted but filled with a newfound sense of hope, the Thompsons knew that their journey was far from over. Johnny's visit had opened their eyes to a greater reality, one filled with infinite possibilities and eternal connections. Little did they know that this midnight vigil was just the beginning of an even greater adventure, one that would not only change their lives, but also touch the hearts of countless others seeking hope and meaning in the face of loss. In the days following their extraordinary midnight encounter with Johnny, the Thompson family found themselves navigating a new reality. The veil between worlds had been lifted, if only for a moment, and the impact of that experience rippled through every aspect of their lives. Sarah, once consumed by grief, now moved through her days with a sense of purpose and peace. She began volunteering at the local hospice, sharing her story with those facing loss and offering comfort in the knowledge that love transcends death. Michael, the skeptic-turned-believer, threw himself into researching similar phenomena around the world. He started a blog documenting their experiences and connecting with others who had encountered the inexplicable. What began as a personal quest for understanding soon grew into a global community of seekers and believers. Lucy, inspired by her brother's message of love and interconnectedness, became an advocate for environmental causes at her school. She often spoke about how Johnny had shown her that everything in the universe was linked, and that caring for the Earth was a way of honoring that connection. Ralph, already a beloved figure in the neighborhood, became something of a local celebrity. People would visit the Thompson house just to spend time with the dog who had bridged two worlds. His gentle presence and unwavering loyalty served as a living testament to the enduring power of love. As word of the Thompsons' experience spread, their home became a beacon of hope for those grappling with grief and loss. People from all walks of life made pilgrimages to the little house in Portland, seeking comfort, answers, or simply a moment of connection with something greater than themselves. One crisp autumn afternoon, a young woman named Emily arrived at the Thompsons' door. Her eyes were red-rimmed from crying, and she clutched a photo of a smiling young man to her chest. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said hesitantly. "I've read about your experiences online, and I just lost my fiancé. I was hoping—" Sarah enveloped the young woman in a warm embrace, ushering her inside. As Emily shared her story over cups of steaming tea, Ralph padded over and gently laid his head in her lap. The simple gesture of comfort brought fresh tears to Emily's eyes, but these were tears of relief rather than sorrow. As the day wore on, Emily's demeanor gradually shifted. The weight of grief that had been crushing her began to lift, replaced by a tentative hope. Before she left, she asked if she could visit Johnny's memorial. Standing under the old oak tree, Emily closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "I don't know if you can hear me," she whispered, "but if you see David where you are, please tell him I love him." At that moment, a gentle breeze swept through the yard, carrying with it the scent of David's favorite cologne. Emily's eyes flew open, a look of wonder spreading across her face. "He's here, isn't he?" she asked, her voice filled with awe. Sarah nodded, smiling through her own tears. "Love finds a way," she said softly. "It always does." As autumn deepened into winter, the flow of visitors to the Thompson house continued. Each person who came left changed, carrying with them a spark of hope and a new understanding of the enduring nature of love. The media eventually caught wind of the story, and reporters began to show up at the Thompsons' door. At first, the family was hesitant to share their experiences with the world at large, fearing ridicule or exploitation. But after much consideration, they decided that Johnny's message of love and connection was too important to keep to themselves. In a series of interviews that captivated the nation, the Thompsons shared their story with honesty and humility. They spoke of loss and grief, of doubt and fear, but most of all, they spoke of love. A love so powerful it could transcend the boundaries of life and death. The response was overwhelming. Letters and emails poured in from around the globe, sharing stories of similar experiences and expressing gratitude for the hope the Thompsons had given them. Scientists and skeptics debated the validity of their claims, but for those who had experienced loss, the message resonated on a deep, personal level. As the year drew to a close, the Thompsons found themselves at the center of a movement, a growing wave of people seeking a deeper understanding of life, death, and the unbreakable bonds of love. They had become reluctant ambassadors for a new way of thinking about existence, one that embraced mystery and possibility. Through it all, Ralph remained a constant presence, a living reminder of the extraordinary connection between worlds. His unwavering devotion to both the memory and the continuing presence of Johnny touched hearts and opened minds. Little did the Thompsons know that their journey was far from over, as they stood on the threshold of a new year, filled with gratitude for the gifts they had received and the opportunities to share them. They sensed that the universe had even greater wonders in store. The stage was set for a revelation that would not only change their lives but potentially reshape humanity's understanding of life, death, and the very fabric of reality itself. As winter's icy grip began to loosen and the first hints of spring emerged, the Thompson family found themselves at the center of a global phenomenon. Their story had touched millions, sparking a renewed interest in the mysteries of life, death, and consciousness. One chilly March morning, Sarah received an unexpected email from Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a renowned quantum physicist, Dr. Rodriguez explained that she had been following the Thompsons' story with great interest and believed their experiences might hold the key to groundbreaking scientific discoveries. Intrigued, the family agreed to meet with Dr. Rodriguez. On the day of her visit, they gathered in the living room, with Ralph taking his usual spot by the window. As the scientist began to explain her theories, the atmosphere in the room grew electric with possibility. "What you've experienced," Dr. Rodriguez said, her eyes shining with excitement, "aligns perfectly with some of our most advanced theories about the nature of consciousness and reality. We believe that consciousness isn't confined to the brain, but is a fundamental property of the universe itself." She went on to explain how the latest research in quantum physics suggested that reality was far more fluid and interconnected than previously thought. The idea of separate or individual existences was giving way to a vision of the universe as a vast, intricate tapestry of consciousness, with each being a unique thread in the grand design. "Your son, Johnny, Dr. Rodriguez continued, may have found a way to maintain his conscious connection to this reality even after physical death. And Ralph, with his heightened sensitivities, acts as a bridge between different layers of consciousness." As the family listened in rapt attention, Dr. Rodriguez proposed a series of experiments to document and study the phenomena they had been experiencing. With the Thompsons' permission, she set up sophisticated equipment around Johnny's memorial and throughout the house. Over the next few weeks, the backyard became a hub of scientific activity. Sensors recorded fluctuations in energy fields, cameras captured anomalous light phenomena, and audio equipment picked up sounds beyond the range of human hearing. But the most striking results came from the analysis of Ralph's brainwaves. When the dog appeared to be interacting with Johnny's presence, his neural patterns showed remarkable similarities to those observed in deep meditative states and certain psychedelic experiences. "It's as if Ralph is tuning into a different frequency of reality," Dr. Rodriguez explained, her voice filled with wonder. "He's perceiving layers of existence that are usually hidden from us." As the experiments progressed, strange and beautiful patterns began to emerge in the data. Dr. Rodriguez and her team discovered intricate mathematical relationships between the energy fluctuations around the memorial, Ralph's brainwaves, and even global electromagnetic field variations. One evening, as the family gathered with Dr. Rodriguez to review the latest findings, something extraordinary happened. The instruments began registering unprecedented levels of activity, and Ralph suddenly stood at attention, his eyes fixed on a point in the center of the room. To everyone's amazement, a shimmering vortex of blue light began to form. Within moments, Johnny's spectral form appeared, more vivid and solid than ever before. "Hi, everyone," Johnny said, his voice clearer than in previous manifestations. "I see you've been busy." Dr. Rodriguez, momentarily stunned, quickly regained her composure and began asking questions. Johnny, with patience and wisdom beyond his years, explained that what they were witnessing was just the tip of the iceberg. "The universe is so much vaster and more intricate than you can imagine," Johnny said. "What you call life and death are just different states of being in an infinite cosmic dance. Love is the force that binds it all together, allowing consciousness to flow between dimensions." He went on to describe realms of existence beyond human comprehension, where thought and reality were one, and where the boundaries between individual beings blurred into a grander, unified consciousness. As Johnny spoke, the instruments in the room went haywire, recording data that would take years to fully analyze and understand. Dr. Rodriguez, her scientific mind racing, realized that they were on the brink of a paradigm shift that could revolutionize not just physics, but philosophy, psychology, and our entire understanding of existence. Before departing, Johnny left them with a profound message. The key to unlocking these mysteries lies not just in science, but in the opening of the heart. Love is the universal language, the cosmic code that connects all beings across all dimensions. In the days and weeks that followed, the Thompsons and Dr. Rodriguez worked tirelessly to compile and make sense of the incredible information they had received. They published papers, gave interviews, and hosted conferences, sharing their discoveries with the world. The response was nothing short of revolutionary. Scientists from various fields began to collaborate, seeing connections between disciplines that had never been apparent before. Philosophers and spiritual leaders found common ground with quantum physicists. A new holistic approach to understanding reality began to take shape. But perhaps the most profound impact was on ordinary people around the world. The idea that love could transcend death, that consciousness was eternal, and that all beings were interconnected in a grand cosmic tapestry brought comfort and purpose to countless lives. The Thompsons' backyard, once a simple family space, became a pilgrimage site for seekers of truth from all corners of the globe. People would sit for hours near Johnny's memorial, meditating, praying, or simply opening their hearts to the greater reality that had been revealed. Ralph, now revered as a kind of interdimensional ambassador, took it all in stride. He continued his daily routines, playing in the yard, napping in the sun, and keeping his vigil at the memorial. But there was a new light in his eyes, a deeper awareness that touched everyone who encountered him. As spring blossomed into summer, the world seemed to be on the cusp of a great awakening. The boundaries between science and spirituality, between the physical and the metaphysical, were dissolving. A new age of exploration was dawning, not of outer space, but of inner space and the infinite realms of consciousness. Yet, even as they stood at the forefront of this global transformation, the Thompsons never lost sight of the personal journey that had brought them here. Their story was, at its heart, one of love, loss, and the unbreakable bonds that connect us all. As they prepared for the next phase of their incredible journey, the Thompsons knew that the greatest adventure still lay ahead. The universe, in all its infinite wonder, was calling, and they, along with Ralph, their faithful guide, were ready to answer. As summer reached its zenith, the world was abuzz with the implications of the Thompsons' discoveries. Universities around the globe had established new departments dedicated to the study of consciousness and interdimensional physics. Spiritual retreats and scientific conferences alike were overflowing with people eager to explore the new frontiers of existence. The Thompsons, while grateful for the positive changes their experiences had sparked, found themselves yearning for a return to the personal, intimate connection that had started it all. They decided to hold a private family gathering at Johnny's memorial on the anniversary of his passing. As twilight descended on that warm August evening, the family settled around the old oak tree. Ralph, on ever vigilant, sat at attention beside the memorial. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, Ralph's ears perked up, and a familiar shimmering began to form, but this time something was different. The light expanded, enveloping the entire backyard in a soft, blue glow. Within this luminous sphere, Johnny appeared, not alone, but accompanied by countless other shimmering forms. "Mom, Dad, Lucy," Johnny's voice rang out, clear and joyful. "I want you to meet, well, everyone." The spectral figures around Johnny began to take shape. Men, women, children, and even animals from every era of history and corner of the globe. The Thompsons recognized some from photos and descriptions of departed relatives, while others were completely unknown, yet somehow familiar. "And this is what I've been trying to show you," Johnny explained, his form pulsing with excitement. "We're all connected, all part of one great cosmic family. The love you feel, the bonds you forge, they echo across dimensions, across time itself." As if to demonstrate, Johnny reached out and took the hands of those nearest to him. A wave of light rippled through the assembled spirits, connecting them all in a web of luminous energy. The Thompsons gasped as they felt the ripple pass through them as well, filling them with an indescribable sense of unity and belonging. Ralph, to everyone's amazement, stood and walked into the glowing sphere. As he did, his form began to shimmer and change. For a brief moment, they saw him not just as the loyal German shepherd they knew, but as a radiant being of pure energy, a soul as vast and complex as any human's. "Ralph has been more than just a pet or even a friend," Johnny said, affectionately ruffling the dog's ethereal fur. "He's been a guardian, a guide, a bridge between worlds. In many ways, his love has been the purest expression of the universal bond we all share." As the family watched in awe, the assembled spirits began to move in a complex, beautiful dance. Streams of light flowed between them, forming intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with the very rhythm of the cosmos. It was as if they were witnessing the inner workings of the universe itself, a grand, cosmic symphony of interconnected consciousnesses. Sarah, Michael, and Lucy found themselves drawn into the dance, their physical forms blending with the light. In those transcendent moments, they experienced existence from a perspective beyond imagination, at once deeply personal and infinitely vast. They saw the trajectory of their lives, not as linear paths, but as shimmering threads in an infinite tapestry. Every joy, every sorrow, every moment of love and loss was revealed as an essential note in the universal symphony. They understood, in the depths of their beings, that death was not an end, but a transition, a change in the song, but never a silencing of the music. As the vision began to fade and they found themselves back in the familiar surroundings of their backyard, the Thompsons were forever changed. They had glimpsed the true nature of reality and their place within it. Johnny's form, already beginning to dim, offered a final smile. "Remember," he said, "the love you feel, the connections you make, they're eternal. Every act of kindness, every moment of compassion ripples across the cosmos. You're never alone, never truly separated from those you love." As the shimmering lights faded and the backyard returned to its normal appearance, the family sat in profound silence. Ralph, back in his familiar canine form, moved among them, offering comfort with gentle nuzzles and warm licks. In the days and years that followed, the Thompsons continued to share their story, but with a new depth of understanding. They spoke not just of the possibility of life after death, but of the fundamental unity of all existence. Their message was one of hope, love, and the infinite potential within every being to connect with the grand cosmic dance. Ralph lived out his days as a beloved family member, a local celebrity, and a constant reminder of the extraordinary journey they had experienced together. And when, many years later, he finally lay down for his last earthly sleep, the Thompsons knew it was not goodbye. It was simply Ralph's turn to join the cosmic symphony in full, adding his unique voice to the eternal chorus of love and connection. As for the Thompsons, they lived their lives with a profound sense of purpose and peace. They knew that every moment, every interaction, was an opportunity to contribute to the universal harmony, and when their own times came to transition, they did so not with fear, but with joy and anticipation of the next great adventure. Their story, our testament to the power of love and the indomitable nature of the human and canine spirit, continued to inspire generations. It served as a beacon of hope, a reminder that in the vast, wondrous tapestry of existence, we are all interconnected threads, weaving together the cosmic masterpiece of life.